So I have a podcast completely online. I'm going to tell you the tools that I use to film this. So for starters, I built myself a little studio, kind of, sort of. Everything was pretty cheap, okay? I will show you a behind the scenes of what it looks like. I use Riverside and a couple other applications, which I will show you. There's a lot of great programs. These are just the ones I went with. I personally use Riverside. I found their pricing to be pretty fair. And then in terms of the studio, I built a little backdrop and it's kind of super cheap, nothing too crazy. I have my shelf because I wanted to put stuff that I related to and all that in the back of the shelf, but that's going to be dependent on you. So I want to give a huge shout out to Focusrite, which is the brand that makes the Scarlett Solo. Mine had broken about 6 months after purchase, so I thought they totally would just tell me to eat bricks. They replaced my broken Solo completely for free, and I really am grateful to them for doing that. That was great. Just letting you guys know, they don't know I do YouTube or any of that, so they just did it. So I definitely recommend Focusrite products for their customer service. In the meantime, I was using this little M audio interface. It was it kind of just made me really grateful to have the Scarlett Solo because it was really mid, but it's fine. I mean, it does the job. It's really cheap. I just needed it as a placeholder mixer. I'm using my A7S III connected to my computer via USB-C, and I'm recording into the camera itself. I'm just shooting on a zoom lens with light thrown through a white bed sheet, so this is all pretty budget friendly. And then I am using a cheap backdrop with a shelf, and I think it looks pretty nice. Everything's pretty affordable. I will link exactly what I'm using below in the description. So now I take you guys to more of the technical aspects. Now, I haven't made an episode in a little bit, so I don't have the full kind of footage to show you guys, but this is basically what Riverside looks like. You come over to the record section, and I am using headphones. I highly recommend that you use headphones. And it'll look something like this. You know, I'm not set up to record it right now, but just so I could show you the interface. And then you would send this link to your guest, and it's all pretty intuitive. It's great. That's why I use Riverside. It's extremely easy. So your guest would have this link, kind of like a Zoom, and it would go to them, and they would just be able to pop in from their phone or whatever other device. The way that I personally record is I connect my Sony camera via USB-C, and you can just directly connect to the computer. The downfall with that is I believe it only goes up to 720p unless you have some sort of Elgato configuration or something, in which case then you'll be able to go to higher resolutions, but I just never did that. My computer couldn't handle it. I was going to have to do it internally, and it was just a huge mess. So instead, what I do is I record the clip on the Riverside platform in the 720p, but then I record externally in 4K, so I just record onto the camera itself, and then I relink everything on Premiere. So once you've done your wonderful recording, it'll look something like this. You will have a long clip. And then I can't really show you because these podcasts are I kind of made them a while ago, so it's just, they're not restored right now. But generally, it'll give you the option to save it. I mean, you could just instantly make a copy of the podcast through Riverside, and it's ready to go. But I like tweaking it a little bit on Premiere, so I'll show you how I do that. But you could essentially, what I recommend is you export each one of your shots individually, so each person's shot individually, and then a kind of pseudo wide where you see both of the people's shots. That's Riverside. It's extremely simple. If this is not like a super in-depth tutorial, it's just me showing how I do it. So there are plenty of actual tutorials that go in depth. I made this project a little bit ago, so I don't have the original base clip. This is for the David Marfield episode. If you're interested in video stuff, you should definitely listen to my episode with David Marfield. I will link it down below. I don't have his clip. I mean, I could probably get it from Riverside and stuff, but I just don't have it on hand. So whenever you see media error, whatever, that's his shot, is the one that's having a media error. I usually create a little intro at the beginning, so we just clip together some stuff about the person I'm interviewing and just the things that they do, and you can do that however you want, but I highly recommend doing some sort of intro. you can't really see his stuff because I just don't have the clip. So yeah, this would have, whatever you see media offline, that would have been his shot. And I got him to say a little intro, and I have a little animation there with just like, all this part. It could just be whatever. It's just easier that way to link everything. So I just kind of synchronize everything and make sure that everything is all lined up. And then we get to chopping. You or the host, a shot of the person and a 2-shot. Yes. So you sync everything up. That should, this is not like a super in-depth video. So I don't know. You can find videos on how to sync in Premiere, but it's pretty simple. You just kind of highlight whatever you want to sync. And then you go to synchronize. Obviously it's not going to work right now because there's no audio for Premiere to synchronize to. So the other thing that I do, which is really interesting, is that I do use AI. Oh my gosh, AI, great. So I go to my extensions, and I have a thing called autopod. This is something that I pay for. I'll put the price of it. I don't remember, but essentially, so the first thing you do is you link up the people in the video. So let's say that audio 1 is David, and then audio 2 is me, Cam, and then you just kind of link. So depending on who's who, then you would go to your cutting method, standard. I don't like standard because it just completely removes the clip. I like enable disable, which means that I could go here and I could re-enable that frame if I want. And if I just felt like, okay, I was like in this part, I felt like I want to see like a 2-shot, so I could go and tweak certain things about that. So I would put enable disable. Then wide shot frequency, this kind of varies. I probably like medium's probably fine. I like the wide shot a lot, but yeah, so this just determines the frequency at which you will see the wide shot of both of you. And then what you usually do is 2 speakers, and then you put 3 cameras, and then the third camera accounts for that wide shot. And then you just do create multicam edit, and it'll just rip. It'll just edit the whole thing. Once we have our podcast edited and it's all great and spiffy and we like it, I also recommend doing an outro. That's my little outro out there, which I use for pretty standard for everything on that channel. So the next thing that I like to use personally is Podbean, and this is just a platform that will kind of take your podcast and put it on everything, that like every platform basically. So it'll look something like this, and it'll just, you have to go in there and tweak it. This is not a full tutorial on Podbean. You can figure it out, but this will just allow you to be on every platform, and your episodes will look something like this, and you can chat about whatever. And then you go into, this is what it looks like to publish an episode. So you choose your episode and you write a little bio and stuff, and it should automatically link to Spotify, iTunes, and etc. So you don't have to do it manually. You can do it manually, but this service is relatively cheap. I think it's like $9 a month, but I will also put that on screen. Riverside is not the only option. There's a bunch of options. It's just what I went with, but you just search a virtual podcast, and there's like StreamYard and a couple other ones. I just went with Riverside. And then the second thing is Podbean. There's a bunch of services like Podbean, but I just went with Podbean because that's what made sense for me. For the autopod, you totally do not need to do that. I just like it for saving time. You could just totally go in there and chop it manually. It would just take you like an hour or two.